we go. Okay, there we go. Hello, welcome to episode 409 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Ed Lamb, my good pal Sean Orford, and Alison Blackler, who's back on the show for the third time, I believe. Alison, how are you doing? You're part of the furniture here now.
Hey, I love coming on this show. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you back on board. Sean, how are you getting on? How's life?
Good. Well, I had a week off last week and just had a lot of interesting experiences that meant it would have been better not to take the week off. No, it was. I had some tough challenges last week, but it's okay. We survived them all. Nobody died, and relatively, and we all come out the other side. So,
okay, yeah, blimey, yeah, it's fun.
We're here.
Fun times on planet Earth at the moment, innit? But there we go.
All
So
around,
we were trying to think about what the title of this episode is, and I think we're still trying to figure that out. But Alison's been on the show before, so I think we're just going to kind of hear a bit more about her journey and how she's been getting on in the last year from her perspective, and then continue on that. But Alison, I'm going to kind of introduce you here because just for those new to the show or relatively new that might not have know much about you, your website says you're a transformational mind coach, facilitator, and author, which is a pretty awesome title. What do you consider yourself? How do you introduce yourself to people, and what kind of work have you been doing over the last year?
So I generally introduce myself. I do call myself a mind coach because I have got the therapy side of it. I originally trained as a counsellor and CBT therapist. But then I do much more, I lean much more towards coaching because I work in lots of businesses and things. So I kind of feel like it's a sort of term I've used that kind of works because I'm not, there are lots of coaches out there, but they haven't got the therapeutic side. So I really am studying the mind and human behaviour. So I feel that it kind of is fitting, and I feel like I am qualified to sort of call myself that, which because I do feel that my experience and my qualifications are quite an unusual mix that gives people something different. So that's generally how I describe myself. And of course, nearly a year ago now, I did become a published author. So I can call myself that too. And obviously for those that don't know, back in the day, 10 years ago probably now, I shared a manuscript with Sean, the first person ever for me to show what I'd done. And I'd literally just wrote, no structure, nothing like that. And he had a look at it for me and said, there's a lot of work to be done, but there's definitely a book in there. And then off and on for years I wrote and I edited, and eventually last year we were all put into lockdown, and Sean is waving his copy, which is amazing.
There it is, yeah. Fast travelled.
Yeah, we were put in lockdown, and it was kind of, I was right, okay, I better finish it off, because I'd been working on it off and on in between working and running my business and life. So I suppose I had no excuses but to say, right, let's get this thing done. So that was last April. And the book itself has done really well. I'm really chuffed with how far it's gone and the feedback I'm getting. It is on Amazon, and I have got 60 amazing reviews, one of which Sean has done one for me. But I'm so pleased that people genuinely feel as if it seems to be a resource for them to be able to understand their mind. So I'm really, I'm glad it's done what I wanted it to do. But obviously moving forward, I wanted it to be not just a book on Amazon. I wanted it to be something that people can, talk about and use. And I think the feedback I'm getting, it is starting to do that now, which is fabulous. But what I've also been doing, and again, let's try and turn lockdown into something positive, or certainly for me, I've always would love to have had an online version or an online program that's connected to what I do. And again, lockdown almost gave me the time, if you like, to be able to do that. I would never have probably got around to doing it. So I've now got an online version of the book, which is a set of videos.
Cool. Well, we'll talk about that because I was just trying to think. It was episode 362 I just looked at when you came on the show last time, which I guess we did it on Zoom, didn't we? So it must have been last April or May, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, I think the book had just come out.
So yeah, we've all been through so much. I mean, not just the three of us, but everyone on planet Earth, literally everyone on planet Earth, pretty much. I would have thought maybe there's some Amazonian tribes, people that are like completely oblivious as to what's going on, and then we kind of envy them. But Sean, yeah, I mean, when you meet with other people like Alison and your colleagues, how do you all kind of have similar versions of how things have gone with people in the last year or so?
Yeah. There's something important that I just want to say, and it's in support of Alison and the work that she does, is that there are two kinds of therapists and writers that I deal with. And the ones that are kind of logically trained are the ones that do things to people. And the ones that have had an emotional journey and live life and have grown through their experience do things with people. And the difference when you read a book like this is it's doing something with you, not to you. And it's like you're involved in a journey, you're invited into something as opposed to someone telling you what to do. And that's the magic of this kind of work. And it's the magic for me of really effective therapists and people that are kind of theoretical. Yeah, and so I want to bang your drum on that, because it's a really, really good book. It is that you feel included in it, which is the important thing.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that, particularly because I admire your work so much.
It's good. It's lovely. It's good.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted it to be. I wanted people to know that, our minds are very powerful. I wanted people to know that I've, as Sean has just said, been on this massive journey myself. I was not as confident, anywhere near as confident as I am today, because I have worked on myself. I am living proof of, if you do understand your mind and if you find techniques to help challenge some of your limits, you can do, you can write a book. I mean, come on, I never thought I'd be a writer of a book. So, I want people to know that I genuinely get it. I get how hard it is. I get how lonely it can feel if you think you're the only person that's thinking in a certain way. If, family relationships are challenging, or if relationships are challenging, I get it. I've been there. I've kind of done it all, if you like. And I want my work to be like that. And also the book particularly was speaking out about how, how it had been for me. I can put my hand in my heart and say, yep, I've been to all of those places.
Cool. And when you look at that idea of doing things to or doing things with the work that both you and I do when you're in an organization, the organization is doing things to their staff, they're doing things with their staff. Yeah. And the difference is phenomenal when you're in it.
Definitely.
Well, yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with that because of the last year.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about before we came on about how, some businesses, many businesses are kind of embracing in their unique kind of way, working from home, and some people like it, some people don't. And for those that do like it, cool. But then some seem to be taking it to quite extreme and unhealthy levels in terms of kind of really, really monitoring quite closely how much work people are doing while they're working at home, and like to the extreme where people have to be like logged into Zoom all the time and like on camera all the time. So Alison, when you're working with the businesses that you work with on that side of your work, how do you come across ideas like that from kind of executives and management and try and steer them away from that kind of thing?
I think there has been a range. I think at first, if you ask a lot of people, a lot of business owners before we had this situation, what's your thoughts about people working from home? No way. The blanket answer, no chance, because there just wasn't the trust, there just wasn't the infrastructure either. And then moving forward, I think for a lot of people, because they value their job, they have worked incredibly hard, almost harder than they did when they were in the office.
Yeah.
I've really seen that, and I've really seen this sort of I'm sure there are some out there who have absolutely swung the lead beyond belief, but in the main, people have really, been grateful for a job and worked very, very hard. They've created areas in their homes to allow themselves to work from home. So businesses, in some instances, have been really pleasantly surprised that actually, oh gosh, wow, our staff really are committed and they really, really do well. But one of the things that I've noticed the most is this idea that you can't have a break. You need to be showing that you are, You know, I know that there are some places where if you keep moving the mouse, they can tell that you keep moving the mouse. So they are, you know, there is ways that these computers can check to see whether somebody is there or not.
Yeah.
But I've also been encouraging people to think about simulating something that is normal, because it's not normal to sit at a computer for 7, 8, whatever your out working hours are. If you were in an office, you would have a little chat with somebody at the photocopier. You would see somebody and just think, oh, can I just ask you a question? And then you'd have a little chat about that or whatever. You would be popping into little offices and having little breakout meetings, and they must simulate that, because otherwise it will feel very lonely. And I think that's when we're starting to see challenges with people's mental health, when they're not actually having that normal and they feel like they can't leave their computers in case their boss spots them. Well, hang on a minute, that's not normal. So I think it's been interesting to watch both how employees have behaved, but also, again, as you said, how leaders feel safe and comfortable. Are people doing what they said? And some businesses have thrived. You know, they've done actually better. What about you, Sean? Have you seen any?
I see, say someone leaves for work at 7 o'clock in the morning, spends an hour going to work. I see people that now start work at 7 o'clock in the morning because that's when I'm in work mode, you know. And if they don't get home till 6 o'clock, they'll work till 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I think people
so
hard.
the employers are actually getting more hours out of lots of people.
I agree. Yeah, but traveling time, you know, they literally zoom to the next zoom, to the next zoom, and then again, is that normal? You know, you have that little time in the car where you can just sort of relax a bit and take your mind off what you do. So I think I've been really encouraging people to think about how you create something that gives you a break, it gives your mind a break from whatever it is you're doing, looking at your computer, and hopefully some of the habits they've got into will continue.
One of the things that I mentioned on a previous episode was I got a guy, he couldn't get into work mode. So in the end, he get dressed for work, go out the door, walk around the block, come back in the house, start work. So we did all that. Same end of the day, you go the other way around. But we had to build into it also, like lunchtime. He had to go out of the house and go and get a sandwich or whatever, or simulate getting a sandwich rather. So he was actually replicating work situations.
I love that. And I know parents who've walked children around the block as if they're walking to school.
Oh, right, yeah, good, yeah.
Straight back in the house, back into the kitchen, and here we are. And with one of somebody I know, she's actually a friend, and I think she's about 3.5, 4. She literally is like, come on, we need to go, we're going to be late, we need to go and walk to school. And she's like, she literally thinks she's walking to school, bless her, and she's walked straight back in the house. But I love that idea of just being able to create something that, because those of us that have worked from home for a long time, of course, you know, this is what we've been doing, it's normal. But I guess those that are very, and I think like you said, Ed, there are some people who love it. I know some people who are very reluctant now, they don't want to go back in. So some of the businesses I'm working with have got quite an interesting dilemma, because they've got some who absolutely can't wait to get back in and have really not done well working on their own at home. And then you've got some who are okay either way. And then you've got some who do not want to, it's worked for them. And that's going to be really interesting to see how you actually manage all of that.
I've got one guy who would be here in the Wirral, but he had to go down to the West Country. And then when the lockdown happened, he was stuck in the West Country. Now he's in the West Country working for a company here, and he doesn't want to come back. And it looks like he's going to be able to stay in Cornwall and work long distance. You know, everyone's happy with it. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think it'll work for some places. I don't know about you, Sean, but you know, obviously I haven't travelled for business for the last year, and you know, some of it you've adapted your programs and made your sessions work on Zoom and online. And will we go back to it? You know, will businesses say, right, we want to pay you travel? You know, Aberdeen. Will people say it? Probably not.
Well, I was going backwards and forwards to Qatar. And working over there, and it's like, oh, that's gone. I do it all online, but it'll never happen in reality again, you know, in the physical sense.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated by all that stuff in terms of how it plays out environmentally. Obviously, there are big benefits to be had there, but ultimately we're talking also not just about that. We're talking about people's livelihoods and jobs and massive like systems of the economy which are going to come grinding to a halt. So I'm I'm just sitting back and watching and waiting to see what happens. I'm not smart enough to figure that all out really, but it's going to be a feisty time in it on planet Earth.
Yeah, I think so. I think like you say, I know some businesses who are going to give up their office space because it's an expense that they now think, well, actually it does work from home. And we'll have maybe pop-up offices where they go and have their team meetings or their bits and pieces. But from a travel point of view, that's going to be great in a way, isn't it?
Well, back in it must have been in the 80s when I was traveling around the country. I lived on the Isle of Wight then. I was traveling all over the country doing staff support stuff and running a team of people. And I'd stay in post house hotels, and there was always this group of people in the various lounges sat having meetings, and in the end, me being nosy, go and talk to them. And there was a company called Digital who had realized everybody could work online. So they closed all their offices, and everyone around the country was working online and connected that way. And that was back along then. But they got into the habit of each area would meet once a week in a post house hotel. So they had that physical contact with each other. They needed it. But that kind of gave them the balance, which is good. Yeah.
So, all right, I want to give people a little recap, Alison, on the book Path Travelled, before we kind of talk about how it's morphed into this online course. So, do you want to give us a rundown again for those that? And I'll link back to the episode previously where we talked about it a bit more in depth. Do you want to give us a little synopsis of where the book came from and what kind of journey it takes people on?
Yeah, of course. So the journey for writing the book itself did start with me processing my own stuff. At first, I just decided to start writing kind of what I was thinking, what I was feeling, how I was working through things, and my own journey with my own training. All the courses I've ever been on are experiential, so you learn on yourself, you learn with your own stuff. So I guess I became very curious about how we can improve our minds and ourselves and our lives and our relationships and our communication. So I used to just write and write and write all about different concepts, different ideas. I would maybe work with a client and then think, well, I'll write about that, about limiting beliefs or people pleasing, or any of the bad habits that we get in around not looking after ourselves, and the drama that we go into when we are not getting our own way. And so I would always just write and write and write. And then it was this huge Word document that didn't have any structure and no chapters and nothing like that. And then probably about 3 years ago, I met somebody who could, I think I showed it to Sean and he said, yep, go for it. So I found somebody who could help me put it into structure. And the book itself is a journey, because at the beginning we learn a little bit about the neuroscience about the mind, and so very simply written how the mind works, the difference between our conscious and our subconscious minds. Because I believe that if we understand a little bit more about that, we've got a greater chance of being able to understand ourselves. So there's a lot of that. And then there's a lot of kind of how we're influenced. So whether that's good or bad, the childhoods that we've had, the types of people that have brought us up, it does influence who we are today. And what I really find useful was for myself and is for people is if they understand why they might be doing something today as an adult based on something that's happened to them, not necessarily something traumatic, just the way they were brought up, how they were praised, how they were rewarded, how they were loved, will have an impact. And I've found over the years, when someone suddenly realizes that they're just keeping an old habit going that's now spent from back in when they were young, it's like, so I don't need to do that anymore. So there's a load of stuff in about that. Then there's lots of stuff around the bad habits and the negative thoughts about we have ourselves, a little of the chatter in your mind. You can't do that, don't be silly, you don't put yourself forward for that. There's a lot of explanation around some of the behaviors that we get into. And then the sort of back half of the book is how you can then help yourself. So it's then becomes a much more of a self-help book. So how you can look at your own thoughts and your own behaviors and your own feelings and challenge yourself. So it's got loads of exercises and case studies throughout it that help you stop and help you think, right, I'm going to work on this for myself. So the whole thing is, like I say, it is a journey. it's a journey you go on. It's a journey I've been on, and I feel now that it's got legs, if you like. It's got its own little platform. People are talking about it, and I've had the most amazing feedback, and this is more about them than me, for just to get a feedback from somebody to say, oh my God, I have transformed my life because I've suddenly realized some of this stuff. That is the greatest gift for me, for somebody else to have. And that's what it's all about for me, for people to just make sense of themselves. And, you know, to get a message from someone to say, you know, I'm hardly sleeping because I can't put your book down. I mean, that's just great.
You get that
So
podcast.
So I think writing it was definitely, yeah, definitely. Writing it as well for me was proof. You know, it was the ultimate proof that I believed in myself. Being able to write it. A lot of my clients over the years have said, I wish you'd write all this stuff down, that you've worked out a way to explain it to people. So I did. And, you know, obviously chuffed that it's out there and people are finding it helpful, which is only ever what I would have ever wanted.
I think that the classic for me is when you're running the courses or you've written the books and people say, why didn't anybody teach this when we were kids? Yeah. And it's like, if you took this into school and you did it, especially as kids are going through adolescence, we would have a different world, you know?
Wouldn't we just?
Yeah. And it's like the kind of work we end up doing either in the workplace or individually is trying to repair the damage that needn't have been done if people had been more awake at the time.
I couldn't agree with you more, Sean. Couldn't agree with you more. If we could help children manage their emotions and their limiting, you know, for me, if I do get a young person to work with, which, you know, I do, it's sad that somebody so young would need to come and see someone like me. However, if I get the chance and can make a difference early doors and let them go and be adults now with this different way. I worked with a girl the other day, 16, really anxious, panic attacks, obviously she created this horrible situation for herself, or the mind had created a horrible situation for herself, wasn't getting into school. One session, I haven't heard from them since, other than it's all great. And all I did was explain what was happening in her mind. I just helped her understand the fight, flight, or freeze. I helped her understand what her conscious mind was trying to protect her. And her dad said, you know, she's not completely free of anxiety, but she's in school and she's suddenly got a different way of viewing it. And I was like, where do you stand for that, really? You know, if you could give all kids that, just that ability to understand that this is normal, but we don't have to kind of live with it, then And
then I think that's one of the keys. It's like, this is normal. You are not mad. Exactly. This is an extreme of normal behavior. Okay, let's turn the volume down, get it back. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would love, you know, I'd love it to be part of, you know, and maybe it will now. Maybe that'll be another thing where mental health is actually addressed in schools now.
Well, it is already actually stuff that my lads say that they go up to when they're in school. It's coming through, and you know, mental health in terms of a response to the pandemic and throughout the pandemic has been raised quite a lot, you know, which is encouraging to see. I guess I'm interested to chat with both of you now about how, you know, what's happened to us all in the last year. There's a real sense of like, people want to return to normal, don't they? And I can see why. And obviously, economically, the government are desperate for things to return to normal, so that line on the GDP can start ticking back up again. But I'll start with you, Sean, if you want. But how are you working with people to kind of, I don't know, nudge them or not to not treat the pandemic as a little blip, but as part of our journey, if you understand what I mean, and not see it as something that we kind of wave goodbye to and then carry on.
I think that the first thing is that normal doesn't exist. It's like when people have been away from normal, it's like they're running a race and they want to get through the ribbon and it'll all be normal. And you'd never get to the ribbon, because normal is how I'm coping with the world at this moment. That's my normal. And I think that's going to be a big mistake. People get into a kind of a depressed nostalgia because it's not like it used to be. And it's not going to be like it used to be. It's going to be different. And we will look back nostalgic, go, can you remember when? But that when has gone. It's the past. We need to be actively involved in creating the present and the future, which is going to be fundamentally different. It's a bit like before we had plastic, people used tin and Bakelite, and it's like we dealt with our situation with what we had available to us, and that's what it's going to be like now, and in many ways we're in a magic situation if we're awake to it, because we can create it. We can create the future as we want it to be, or we can slip into sort of anarchical chaos, which has a potential. You can see it around different parts of the world, where the loonies you have lunch with are all coming out to play, and that's, it's tough in some areas now, and there's processing to do. But and I like Ed's view when he says, well, I just sit back and I watch this madness going on. And in many ways, that's about all you can do. You can kind of help it and push it, prod it, and kind of wave the flag, go this way, But in many ways, we have to observe, how are we as a race of beings going to react to all this?
How about you, Alison? How are you using the lessons in the book to kind of get people through the last year and get them on in the coming years ahead?
I think it's about responsibility. A lot of it comes down to, I think, Sean's absolutely key on for being aware and being in the now. If you spend too much time in the past, it's not a good place normally, never mind the current situation. And obviously the future, is created by what you do right now. So the more we can get people to think of it like that, and that they have got the control, what dare we say, to create it however they want, create their own happiness. But I think that if we all took responsibility for ourselves, and it sounds crazy to say that, but people don't. People blame everyone else. If we could just, talk about blame in the book a lot. If we blame anybody else, our parents, the government, the police, your next door neighbor, whatever, if we all take responsibility for ourselves and our own emotional happiness, it sounds idyllic, but really that is the key to it all, really. If we were just able to say, right, what do I need to do right now? So all that stuff's going on out there, what do I need? And I wonder, how many people have started to do that in the current situation, because some of the other noise and some of the other stuff has gone and wasn't there. So can we now start to really reflect? I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I've really reflected on myself in this last year, and what do I want out of life? And I'm hoping that we don't, like Sean said, we don't all rush to the normal line and hope that it'll be exactly like it was. Let's stay with what you've gained, really, because I'm sure that everybody's gained some new stuff.
Yeah.
Whether that's letting go of old habits or whether that's creating new habits. Let's try and really be conscious and responsible about taking on that. But we sometimes, when people are pressured or stressed or busy, they go back to the autopilot of whatever the old habit was, which isn't necessarily a good one. So it'll be interesting. But I think if we all just be interested in our own little journey, then we collectively will make up that bigger picture.
Yeah, I love it at the moment. Every time I turn on the TV, it seems someone's going, have you tripped over a matchstick? Who can we sue for you? There could be money in this for you. There could be a claim, as opposed to you might actually take responsibility for who you are,
Definitely.
Look where you're going,
Oh, the whole blame thing, like you say, every radio is, dentists, blame them, get money from here. If you've it's just like, no, no, stop now.
Yeah. Once you're aware to it and alert to it, you just see it everywhere, don't you?
Oh, it's horrible. It's just like, stop now, just stop it. We can't continue to blame each other for everything. It's just not getting us anywhere either. It doesn't get you anywhere. Yes, obviously, if something as horrific has happened that somebody's made a mistake on, that's a different thing. But after that, the rest is just stuff that we need to take responsibility for.
Yeah. And it is the thing about, if we all look after each other, we will all be all right. But we have to learn to look after each other. That's the key.
But I think the frustration for so many people, because it's very easy for me to say, right, we need to all take responsibility for ourselves. But of course, this piece of kit in our heads, if it feels threatened, it will have you believing that other person is in the wrong. it's, you know, that emotional response, as I always remind people, is 5 times quicker than any logic, any rational answer. So it will have you in that place, you know, so quickly, and we have to respect that and manage that piece of kit, and that's the skill. When we take responsibility for ourselves, and we can all stop shouting or retreating. Again, you know, whichever it is that you do when you respond to something that isn't going your way, if we take responsibility for that response, you'll have a different result. And that's where the power lies. But that isn't easy to do. We know that. It's a hard thing to break.
It's like the amount of times, and it is lots of times, people have said to me things like, you know what, cancer is the best thing that ever happened to me. And nobody goes, you know, but it made someone stop. It made them get themselves together. They sorted their lives out. And you know what? They're really happy now, and they weren't before.
Exactly. And it'd be interesting to see if there's many people who have had something like that happen this year. I know loads of people who, you know, jobs have changed. They've set up the business of their dreams in this current situation, and they're thriving, you know. So even though, but we also know that there are a lot of people out there who haven't had that experience. So I think it's just being able to look out for each other.
There is a but on that, and this isn't me being a clever dick because it's okay for him, isn't it? I don't mean that, but it's like, it does come down to, it's not what happens to us that's important, it's how we respond to it. Yes, some bad things happen, horrible things happen in life. Okay, what we're going to do now? Yeah, we support each other, we're going to be okay. But that's it, we have to be responsible for our reaction to what goes on.
100%. Yeah. And that's what most of my work is, helping people see that. Yeah. I'm sure yours will be the same. It's just helping people see that their reaction is just that. And if you respond to the reaction, that's where it usually gets you into water.
Yeah.
So tell us, Alison, a bit more about, because the book has evolved now into a bit of an online course. So tell us about how you managed to find some time to get that done, and how it's structured, and how it's going.
So that I guess has always been a dream of mine, to have something like that. And if we are going to look for things being good, I had the time to write it and prepare it during lockdown, because I wasn't commuting, I wasn't running up and down the country seeing various people and teams. One of the things that happened early on last summer was I got a group together who were looking for some answers, looking for some self-development, and we decided to do a program. I sort of put together a small program out of the book, 12 session, 12 weeks, and we met every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, and there was 18 people on the Zoom call, and I had a topic for each week, and we would, out of the book, and we would basically bring the book to life, hold them accountable to the exercises, so catch up with them the following week and say, how have you got on? And they blew me away. They blew me away with how hard they worked and how well, and there's a few of them have done some video testimonies from that course, and it's fabulous that they've really looked at themselves and challenged some of their limiting beliefs, and suddenly, wow, they've got all this confidence. So it kind of, out of the success of that, I thought, well, it's quite hard for some people to meet every single week at a certain time and have to work. They might not have been in the right frame of mind to work on that day. So I was sort of observing the group really as they individually grew, but also as they grew as a group. And that got me thinking, well, now is the time for me to produce something based on this. So I had recorded all of the sessions, so I went back through them all and got all the gems from it and all the things that people asked me that might not have been, I might not have put them in because I hadn't thought of that. And then I developed 12 sessions, which there are videos for each session. They're on average about 10 minutes long, and each one is a topic. So it'll be how your mind works is one topic, drama is another topic, the habits and patterns that we get into is another topic, there's one around beliefs. And basically you are able to download all the exercises. They're interactive, so you can either just type them into the platform or you can print them out and people can write on them. And they go on this journey. But for some, I have had feedback, and I'm sure Sean has too, books, some people don't like reading books. Some people find books very difficult to read. Mm-hmm. And I decided that this platform, being able to give people a chance to watch a video where I explain something, the videos are quite interactive. I've had them produced, you know, it's been produced professionally. And again, it gives people a resource so that when the live session was gone, what I noticed about these girls is they remembered what they remembered, but obviously being able to play it back whenever you wanted to, and just, what was that thing? I just wanted to go and check, what was that thing? Because what I like about this kind of work is do a little chunk and then go on and have a little play and think about it for yourself, and then come back and then do a little chunk. Because I think that's how we all learn this stuff. You know, it is a language that you need to learn, and you know, if you were learning a foreign language, you wouldn't learn it in one go. So you would be able to do that, and that's how it was born. Really, the whole concept of it was out of this idea of having a live session, which I still would do, but I think you've got to have people who can come and be on a call at the same time every week. So, and
there's a social aspect to it. There's a Facebook group people can join and kind of help and mentor each other a little bit.
Yeah, so I was thinking about how can I connect people and how can I continue to support them. So if they've gone off and bought the book, there is a private Facebook group which has just got people who are on the program of working through it. And the idea is, and I'm still developing this, but the idea is it's a safe place for everyone to be able to share or ask questions or share their sort of light bulb moments. And again, this is what this group did. They would come on each week and they would share with each other, and they would ask each other questions, and then they were starting to ask each other questions and not always ask me. And I love that idea of a group of like-minded people who have been on a journey together, and I'm on that journey with them. I can answer questions obviously and be with them, and I will do lives and kind of just keep them developing, keep them supporting themselves. Really, it's a safe place.
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, Sean, what are you thinking, man? I mean, you've been doing a lot of online stuff as well, obviously. I mean, before even all this started off, have you?
Yeah, I was doing about 50% online around the world. So, I mean, my most extreme days would be to start in Saudi Arabia at 6 in the morning and end in Canada at 10 at night. And it can be all over the place as well, you know. I mean, obviously with lockdown, I have so many people that said I'd never use that stuff. I'd never go on the screen. I'd never, and suddenly they're there talking to me now. That obviously the issues of face-to-face contact are so important, not just from a cognitive point of view, from an emotional, intuitive, even the smell of people. You know, we forget what people smell like. You can't smell, we need smell-o-vision or something so that we can actually contact people. And so there is a difference, there is a huge difference. And I have people now that I've worked with all over the world who I've only ever seen from here up. You know, we've never met. You know, I don't know whether they got legs. You know, it's like we have that relationship, and that's fine. That's okay. But it's a different kind of relationship. You know, as human beings, we are designed to kind of touch. Just go down to Chester Zoo and watch the chimpanzees in that tower thing. They can't stop touching each other because that's what group animals do, and we do, whether it's shaking hands or having a hug or whatever. And it's not in a mask, socially distanced, and that's the bit that we have to get back again.
Yeah,
we will, but it might take quite a while to get.
I know. Yeah, well, I mean, I met someone on the Wirral Way. We were doing a bit of a ride with me fan boat, and zoomed past someone and recognized the face, and then thought, that's you know who that I've been speaking to on Zoom for like the last few months, once a week. So I stopped. Yeah, spun around, and she's like, and she said, I'd love to give you a hug, but we can't, can we? I was like, no, it's not yet. Sorry, but it was like you said, she's got legs. I never knew.
She's a person, a real person.
But yeah, I mean, we'll finish up really by just talking about what do you think is going to happen in the next few months. I was watching a movie last night, as I said before we came on. A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga, and there's a bit where they do a duet early on together, like next to sharing a microphone, and my first thought was they're too close. So and obviously I thought, oh my gosh, what is wrong? I'm so messed up. But yeah, how are you thinking, Alison, that the next few months are going to go for people you work with and friends and family as well?
Well, I think because we've been doing it for so long, it has become a habit. So, you know, they say habits form in however, you know, some science says 21, 24, 28 days. So we've been doing this for a long time now. So it has become a habit, you know, where we are in our homes in the evening, particularly. I know I feel like that, you know, the thought of actually getting ready and going out for dinner, it's like, wow, that's a whole new thing. So I think there's going to be a real range of responses. I think there'll be some people who are absolutely dying for it and they'll just go for it. And they'll be out there large, and they'll be, whether that's a slightly younger generation, I'm not sure yet. But I think there is a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety around the normal and whatever, like we said, we don't know what normal is. We've got to create a new normal. And even then, that whatever that means will be different for all of us. So doing little speech marks in the sky, because what is that? What is it anyway? And I think it is. I think it's about pacing, for people to pace themselves however they feel is right and do it their way. But equally, I think we've got to push ourselves. You can't, you know, an answer won't be to not socialize and not see people, because I think there will be some people who might adopt that position, and I think that's not the place to go. It's for me, it's about working out how you want to come back out, for want of a better word. But respecting the fact that everyone's different. You know, we aren't all the same. We don't want to do it the same way, just like we're not the same anyway. You know, it's the same kind of thing, isn't it, really?
Yeah. I mean, I get accused of being negative by some groups when I say some of the things that I see and feel going on around me. But my bottom line is, I think we're about 2 years away from any level of normality. And I think we're a generation away of people processing the damage that's been done, especially to kids in this, and because of the kind of the socialization or the lack of socialization, all that kind of stuff that's gone on. And I think this is a far bigger issue than people have accepted. You know, they want kind of like next week we'll be out of it. And I think we're talking about long-term stuff here. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if in a year's time we're still wearing masks and, you know, doing all kinds of stuff, because we still need to.
Yeah. I think it's learning how to live with it, isn't it? Because it's not going to go away. It's a thing that we have to be conscious of and take responsibility for ourselves. Yeah.
But that whole idea about children being scared of what's going to happen to their own grandparents because, you know, they've heard it on the news. You know, the fact that kids have been brought up with everybody wearing a mask. You know, there's no facial features to relate to. You know, how do we learn about communication? Well, we look at each other and we use our face, you know, as part of our communication. There's a whole load of kids that are missing it. You know?
Yeah, I was at friends yesterday in the garden, in the howling wind. Oh, it was quite sunny, and the snow had stopped by the time we got there. And they've got their youngest child was 3 months old when things shut down. So she's basically spent her whole life, you know, with her parents, her brother, her older brother, and the occasional, you know, grandparent visit and time with. So, yeah, I was watching it. You know, you never know whether kids, I did make her cry just by looking at her. But I don't know whether that's just because she was freaked out by me, just generally.
Yeah, you have that effect on me.
or it's like, who's this person in my garden, you know, that I'm not used to seeing. And so, like you say, it's going to take a generation to play out.
But if you spend your early years with people saying, you don't touch, don't go there, don't go, you know, and then suddenly so go and give them a cuddle. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
How do you get over that? You know?
And you know how people build anxiety anyway, especially young people. Any young person that I've worked with, they've built anxiety because people have said, don't touch that, don't do that. You know, it's a thing. It's what we do to try and protect our children. But I think the other thing, if we want to try and flip it over, young people as well, you know, have shown great resilience as well. You know, really, we've all coped. You know, most people have, obviously some people have found it harder than others, but it's about how we can build on that, really, and how you know, young people are very adaptable and have continued to adapt. It's not ideal. Yes, we won't know the impact. I feel certain pockets of kids you feel really sorry for, depending on their age. what they've missed out on. Certain kids have missed out because of a different age, the year sixes who went into secondary school and didn't have any of that prep. I mean, that's quite a big deal. University, first year uni kids,
no freshers year.
They just haven't had what they should have had at all. My nieces are in that place. It's just like, such a shame. There's definitely some that you think, wow, they haven't had it, but they've also found other skills and other ways of being, and hopefully they can build on those and have those for life. Yeah.
And the good news is that the industry of the future is psychological support. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. If you want a job for life, go and train.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. Are we all happy? Yeah. Anyone else? You want to mention anything else in particular, Sean? Are you happy with that?
No, I'm good. Lovely to see you, Alison. You must come back and tell us about your new book, and we need to have a whole episode on that.
We do, yeah. Do you want to, Alison? You've got another one in the works, actually. Do you want to quickly tell us what that one's all about?
So I've decided. So when I was writing my first book, A Path Travelled, when I looked at my manuscript, there's quite a lot of content that was very specific on intimate relationships, and I felt that Path Travelled was much more about the relationship you have with yourself. And obviously it was about communication, so obviously other people are in there too. But there was quite a lot of content that I pulled out and thought, well, one day, I'll chuck that in a second book around relationships. And then, of course, we're in our second or third or whatever it was lockdown. So I got this chunk of work out and realised actually there really was quite a lot. And because I've learned so much about how to structure a book, I was able to put a proper structure in place before I started feeding this information into a structure. So a second book kind of appeared much easier than the first ever. And then because we've still been locked down, I've been working towards that. So this is much more, it is a follow-on from A Path Travelled, but it is very much around how intimate relationships work and how we work within them. So looking at the negative, unhealthy relationships and habits we get into along with the healthy one, and how to maybe make it more healthy. So it's been I've quite enjoyed writing this one because I've been able to remember, because I'm doing it in a short space of time, I know where things are, whereas I think A Path Travel for a long time I couldn't remember, I've already written about that, oh gosh, I've written it about 3 times, and that because it was so disjointed. So I've learned so much about how to kind of write and things. So this time I'm much more, I feel like it's a whole book and I've written it as a whole book. So I'm quite excited. And I'm hoping that that'll be out around June.
Right.
Cool. All right. We'll get you back on the show to talk all about it. Excited to read it. Nice one.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. We usually do a resource of the week now, actually. Sean, have you got anything that's you've come across in the last...
No, I think we need to give this to Alison. I mean, the resources, anyone that hasn't bought it needs it. You need to look at, we need to make a link to your online course so that people can sign up for that. And we need to do the pre-intimate relationship book. Does it have a name?
Don't know what to call it yet. I really don't. I don't, because A Path Travelled is called A Path Travelled, How to Make Sense of Your Life. There's a possible thought around saying A Path Travelled, How to Make Sense of Your Relationships, and make it kind of so that it really is part of the same process. Or whether
what about a path that you share?
Oh,
a path shared or something.
That's what you do when you're in a relationship, isn't it? You share your path.
Sean, I love that. I'm having that.
He's going to want to mention now dedication, I think.
Yeah, dedication in the book, I will, definitely.
Yeah, and I think we need to finish on the fact is, when's Ed going to write his book?
Oh yeah, it's just me missing now, isn't it? I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about it, and mine would have to be on car culture and like the end of everything. So yeah.
Hot topic. It's a hot topic.
The end of the path by Ed.
Yeah, no more paths, or yeah, no cars down this path or something like that.
No more roads.
Yeah, I'm on it. All right, cool. I want to say, Alison, as well, you came and helped me and Tanya with Rethink again, probably about a year ago or so. And yeah, we spent half a day with you going through our business and getting it all mapped out, and it was an amazing experience. And I still think back to that. So yeah, thanks for your time back then as well.
No, you're welcome. Always good. Always good to just give people space. I love one of my biggest things is to give people, whether it's an individual or a group or a team, some safe space for them to think for them, because that's often what we don't do. We're too busy on to the next thing. We don't have that creative space that we create, and attention, you know, giving people attention so they can hear what they're saying and then have somebody reflect it back.
Cool. All right. Highly recommended. All right. Thanks very much. We'll link to to Alison's books and all your social media profiles down in the description. Get in touch, and we'll be back next week for more fun and games. Alison, thanks again for coming on. I'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You take care.
All
See
right.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.